Good morning students. In today's class we are going to see about what? Water resources. Right. Water resources அப்படினா water வந்து நமக்கு important thing, right? நம்ம daily life வந்து water இல்லாம it's a very big question mark. நினைச்சு பாருங்க, நம்ம வீட்டில் தண்ணியே இல்லை, அப்போது நம்ம எப்படி வாழ முடியும்? It's not possible, right? So water is a major thing which plays a major thing, right? இப்போது வாட்டர்னு பார்த்துட்டா நம்ம பாடி லெவலில் அப் டு 60% இருக்கணும் வாட்டர், ரைட்? நெக்ஸ்ட் அதில் அந்த வாட்டர் வந்து பெர் டேக்கு வந்து ஃபார் உமன்ஸ், அதாவது உமன்ஸ்க்கு வந்து 3.5 லிட்டர்ஸ் குடிக்கணும் தண்ணி, ஃபார் மென்ஸ்க்கு வந்து 5.6 லிட்டர்ஸ் குடிக்கணும். ஸோ இதுதான் வாட்டர் பெர் டேக்கு குடிக்க வேண்டிய இது. நெக்ஸ்ட் நம்ம வந்து can we move to the class, right? In today's class we are going to see about water resources, right? The water has been divided into three major categories. They are earth water, fresh water and then saline water. Out of 100% எப்படி water வந்து divide ஆகுதுன்னு பார்ப்போம். Fresh எதோட earth water, earthல வந்து அதாவது இதான் earthனா 3/4 part வந்து the 3/4 part has been fully covered by water, water, right? இப்போ எர்த்துன்னு பார்த்துட்டா saline water வந்து 97%. saline waterனா என்ன? salt water தான் saline waterன்றாங்க. இது வந்து full and full which has been present in oceans, right? Next, out of 100% salt water மட்டும் 97% இருக்கு, right? fresh water only 3% is available. Okay, coming to fresh water, fresh வந்து ice caps வந்து 68%, ground water வந்து 30% and then others வந்து 0.9%, right? இப்போது ஐஸ் கேப்ஸ் வந்து மோஸ்ட்லி எந்த மாதிரி ரீஜன்ஸில் இருக்குன்னா அண்டார்டிகா, ரைட்? அண்டார்டிகா அண்டார்டிகாவில் அந்த ரீஜன்ஸில் வந்து ப்ரெசென்ட் ஆகிருக்கும் ஐஸ் கேப்ஸ். ஸோ முக்கால்வாசி ஐஸ் கேப்ஸ் வந்து இது எல்லாமே ஃபுல் இந்த ஐஸ் கேப்ஸ் based upon what? the climatic conditions. இப்போ climatic condition மாற so the ice will melt, right? so அது மாறுறதுலையும் இருக்குது, ஃபார்ம் ஆகுறதுலையும் climatic condition பொறுத்து. அப்படி ஃபார்ம் ஆனால் ஐஸ் கேப்ஸ் வந்து 68.7% இருக்கும். இதில் வந்து அப்புறம் அது மெல்ட் ஆனால் கிரவுண்ட் வாட்டர் ரைஸ் ஆகும்ல, ஸோ கிரவுண்ட் வாட்டர் பர்சன்டேஜ் வந்து 30% and then others பார்த்துட்டா 0.9%, right? Coming to surface water பார்த்துட்டா it depends upon the lakes, ponds and the water percentage பார்ப்போம். இதில் வந்து லேக்ஸ் வந்து 87%, ரிவர்ஸ் வந்து 2%. இதுதான் வாட்டர் ரிசோர்ஸோட கிளாசிஃபிகேஷன், ரைட்? இதோட நீட்ஸ், ரைட்? இப்போது என்ன கேன் வி ஆர் ரீகேப் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்? வாட்டர் வந்து எர்த் வாட்டர், ஃப்ரெஷ் வாட்டர் அண்ட் தென் சர்ஃபேஸ் வாட்டர். எர்த் வாட்டர்னு பார்த்துட்டா சலைன் 97% அண்ட் தென் ஃப்ரெஷ் வாட்டர் வந்து 3%, சலைன் வந்து வாட்? சால்ட் வாட்டர், ரைட்? ஃப்ரெஷ் வாட்டர் வந்து ஐஸ் கேப்ஸ் which has been formed in Antarctica in that part of regions, that is it is about 68.7% and groundwater is 30% and then other is 0.9%, right? Coming to last, the surface water. நம்மளுக்கு எர்த்துக்கு மேலே கிடைக்கிற வாட்டர் வந்து வாட்டர் லேக்ஸ் மூலமாக அண்ட் தென் ரிவர்ஸ். இதில் எவ்வளோ பர்சன்டேஜ்னா லேக்ஸில் 87%, ரிவர்ஸில் வந்து 3%, ரைட்? நெக்ஸ்ட் we will see about இதில் வாட்டரில் மேஜர் திங் என்னன்னு பார்த்துட்டா வாட்டர் சைக்கிள் டிபெண்ட்ஸ் அப்பான் த வாட்டர் சைக்கிள். வாட்டர் சைக்கிள் அதாவது அதோட ப்ராசஸ் என்னன்னு பார்த்துட்டா கண்டென்சேஷன், precipitation, collection and then evaporation, right? It is the process. இப்போ condensation, இப்போ rain, right? rain மூலமா water வந்து இதாகுது, right? and then the water வந்து what? It has been collected through the means of what? seas or lakes. இது மூலமா collect ஆகி and then what? It will become evaporated through the means of solar energy, right? sun மூலமா evaporate ஆகி what? vapor இதாகும். next then it will go to condensation. evaporate ஆகி condense தான் ஆகும். cloudல போய் இது cloudல போய் stay ஆகி and then heavy ஆகி it will blow the rain and then perception, collection and then evaporation. This is the water cycle, right? The major thing வந்து water cycle தான் இருக்கு. If it affects it, water cycle affect ஆனா automatically the climatic condition will differ as well as the water will not be there, right? Next, this is about the water cycle. Have you understood the water cycle, students? Right? Next, we will see about the water scarcity. Right? Coming to water scarcity, water scarcity na என்னன்னு பார்ப்போம். இப்போ water scarcity la scarcity which means என்ன சொல்வாங்க? இல்ல தண்ணி பஞ்சம்ன்றாங்கள அதே மாதிரி வாட்டர் ஸ்கேர்சிட்டி இந்தியாவில் மட்டும் இல்லை, out of India is also be there. The major thing is that இப்போ ஃப்ரெஷ் வாட்டர்னு பார்த்துட்டா லைக் ஃப்ரெஷ் வாட்டர் எங்கே கூலான ஏரியாஸ் லைக் சவுத் ஏஷியா அண்ட் அந்த பார்ட்ஸ் அந்த மாதிரி பார்ட்ஸில் இருக்கும், ரைட்? சவுத் ஏஷியா, அமெரிக்கா, நார்த் அமெரிக்கா, சவுத் அமெரிக்கா அந்த மாதிரி ரீஜியன்ஸில் வந்து ஃப்ரெஷ் வாட்டர்ஸ் வந்து இல்லை, தண்ணி இல்லை, ரைட்? ஃப்ரெஷ் வாட்டர்ஸ் வந்து கிடைக்காமல் இருக்குது. நெக்ஸ்ட் இது வாட்டர்ஸ் இந்தியான்னு பொறுத்த மட்டுக்கும் the main இந்தியானாலே ஃபஸ்ட் in today's scenario பார்த்துட்டா it has been dry region. ராஜஸ்தான் முந்திஃபுல்லாக ராஜஸ்தான் இஸ் அ பெஸ்ட் எக்ஸாம்பிள், ரைட்? இது அது வந்து டெசர்ட் ஏரியா, ஸோ there will be no water, right? இப்போது பார்த்துட்டா 1947ல் 6008 cubic meters லிட்டர்ஸ் இருந்துச்சு தண்ணி இந்தியாவில். 2001ல் 1820 cubic liters இருந்துச்சு. அண்ட் தென் 2025ல் 2025 இட் இஸ் ஜஸ்ட் இட் இஸ் அதாவது ரிசர்ச் பண்ணுவாங்கள ப்ரிடிக்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க அந்த இன்ஸ்டியூட்ஸ் ஒன்று என்னென்னா 2025ல் 1340 cubic meters has been there. And by 2050 only 1140 cubic liters will be found there, right? It is based upon the water scarcity in India. So adukku mari necessary steps should be taken, right? So we should save water, right? Next, how to conserve water. The major thing is that how to conserve water. The major thing is that இப்போ ரீசெண்டான இஷ்யூ என்ன? COVID-19, ரைட்? இப்போது நம்ம கையை வந்து வாஷ் பண்ணிகிட்டே இருக்கணும். இப்போ ஜஸ்ட் இமேஜின் we don't have water or anything, ரைட்? இப்போ என்ன செய்வாங்க? ஸோ இட் ஹாஸ் பீன் இப்போது எக்கனாமிக் டைம்ஸில் ஒரு இஷ்யூ வந்திருக்கு. தட் இஸ் வித்தவுட் that is water, the COVID-19 has been spreading out rapidly, right? It is one of the main issue, right? Water இல்லாமல் எப்படி நம்மளால் கை கழுவ முடியும்? It has been a big question mark, right? Next, how do we conserve water? இப்போ நம்ம எப்படி கன்சர்வ் பண்ண முடியும் வாட்டரை? through the means of சேவிங், லைக் நம்ம நீடுக்கு மட்டும் வாட்டரை வந்து யூஸ் பண்ணணும். நெக்ஸ்ட் ப்ராப்பர் க்ளோசிங் ஆஃப் த டேப்ஸ் அண்ட் and many other, like we can do the canal, right? Canal, இப்போ canal தோன்றது மூலமாகவும் வாட்டர் கன்சர்வ் பண்ணலாம், as well as மழைநீர் அது மூலமாகவும் வாட்டர் கன்சர்வ் பண்ணலாம். These are some of the things. Next வந்து drip farming. It is mainly for the persons who are doing the agriculture, right? இப்போ அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் பண்ணுறவங்களுக்கு ட்ரிப் ஃபார்மிங் வந்து மெயின் யூஸ். ஏன்னா ட்ரிப் ஃபார்மிங்கோட மெயின் திங் என்னென்னா அது வந்து ஸ்ப்ரிங்கிள் பண்ணும், அதாவது தண்ணி வந்து சுற்றி விடும். ஸோ ப்ராப்பராக வந்து எல்லா ஏரியா, அதாவது லார்ஜ் ஏரியாவில் இருந்தாலும் ப்ராப்பராக வாட்டர் அந்தந்த பிளான்ட்டுக்கு போய் சேரும், as well as அந்த வாட்டர் வந்து வேஸ்ட் ஆகாது, ரைட்? ஸோ இட் இஸ் அப்பான் த ட்ரிப் ஃபார்மிங். இப்போது கன்சர்வ் பண்ணுறது முன்னாடி எப்படி இருந்திருக்கும்னா, எப்படி கன்சர்வ் பண்ணுற அந்த டேர்ம் எப்படி வந்துச்சுன்னா, பிஃபோர் தட் இட் இஸ் மெயின்லி ஃபார் த வாட்டர் பொல்யூஷன், ரைட்? வாட்டர் பொல்யூஷன் எப்படி ஃப்ளோ இருக்குது? த்ரூ த மீன்ஸ் ஆஃப் இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ். இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில் இருந்து வெளிவர கழிவுல வாட்டரில் சேர்ந்து அதில் வந்து நம்மளுக்கு டிசீஸ் வருது, ரைட்? ஸோ water pollute ஆகுது, as well as the wastage has been in the water, right? So water pollution has been taken place, as well as the industrial activities is fully been there. Next, can we have recap for today's class? In today's class we have seen about, that is, water resources, or the importance of water resources, right? Water has been divided into three major categories. They are earth water, fresh water and surface water. The earth water has been divided into two major things. One is upon the saline water, and another thing is about what? The fresh water, right? The saline water is 77% and that is fresh water is 3%, right? The fresh water has been further divided into two categories. They are ice caps and groundwater and others, right? And coming to surface water, it's fully based upon the rivers and lakes, right? Next we have seen about the water cycle, the major thing, because when there is a climatic, based upon the climatic condition only, the water cycle will happen, right? Next we have seen about the water scarcity in India as well as outside India, right? Next we have seen about how to conserve water, right? In conserving water there are two things. One is about the canal and another one is about the drip farming, right? In drip farming it is used for only for what? Whom? The persons who is working in agriculture, right? Because the main thing is drip farming is that it will conserve the water. No wastage will be in water, because every plant will be benefited through the means of what? Drip farming, right?
Our body is filled with over 60% water, and this doesn't seem like a big deal because the earth is covered with over 70% water. The problem with that is that most of that is seawater that we can't use. And the fresh water that remains, most of it's going to be frozen in ice caps and glaciers. And so the percent that is really fresh water on the surface is a small percent of the water on our planet, and it's finite. The amount of water we have on our planet has never changed. Now, as the sun provides energy to the earth, the water will move around through the hydrologic or the water cycle, but we have a finite amount of water, and most of it is going to be seawater. We have a little bit of fresh water. The seawater moves around through ocean currents. The fresh water could be divided into groundwater, water underneath the surface, and then surface water, which is on the surface. Now, we need that water. We need it domestically in the home to take a shower or to drink, but we also need it in industry to make our goods, and most of it actually goes to agriculture to make the food that we eat. The problem with water on our planet is that it's unevenly distributed. In some areas there's lots of water, in some areas, however, there's going to be scarcity. And so humans have had to learn how to store water, move it around, and in the future we may have to desalinate some of that seawater so that we can use it as fresh water. Now, where is that groundwater stored? It's underneath the ground in aquifers that we can deplete. What about the surface water? Well, it can be stored in reservoirs that occur naturally or ones that are created as we produce dams. And then we can move it around through aqueducts and even to the plant itself through irrigation, but we have a finite amount, and so conservation is incredibly important, and economics have contributed to water loss and could help us to actually solve this water conservation problem. And so the hydrologic cycle works like this. Anywhere there's water on the surface, we can have evaporation. That gets cooled and eventually leads to condensation and precipitation. Once it's on the surface, we call that surface water. It's running over the surface. That could be lakes and swamps and rivers. After we have that water hit the ground, it can, however, be infiltrated into the soil and the ground itself. To give you an example of that, imagine I've got a beaker here. Is it full? Well, maybe full of air. If I put marbles in it, is it full? No, you can still see there's spaces in it. What if I fill it up with sand? Is it full? No, there's still spaces in there. If I fill it up with water, now we're starting to fill up that beaker. And that's what infiltration is. As the water flows down into the soil, we call that now groundwater. Let's say it's not filling that whole beaker, it's right here. That point at which we have saturation in the groundwater is called the water table. Most of our planet is covered with water. Unfortunately, it's seawater. It has salt dissolved in it. If you drink it, you'll die. If we put it on our fields, the crops are going to die. Now, it moves around using currents. We talked about that in the last video on the atmosphere. It sells in the atmosphere and the Coriolis effect. So we have these general trends in circulation. But also salinity affects it. And so if we look at an area right here, it's a high salt concentration because we have a lot of evaporation. But up here, we have a lot of melting of that glacial ice, and so we're going to have a low salt concentration. And so the salt concentration and differences in heat create these thermohaline circulation that really make that whole ocean on our planet one system. Now, if we look at fresh water, it can be divided into water that is above the surface, we call that surface water, and then groundwater. But what's interesting is if we look to the sides of that stream, you can see the water table in the groundwater. And so if you dig a hole right here, it's just going to fill in with water because of all that groundwater around it. Now, this is an aquifer. It's storage of that water in the groundwater. We call this unconfined aquifer because the water can move between the surface and the aquifer itself. If I were to dig down a little bit, we could find what's called a confined aquifer, and that's going to be stuck between this impermeable rock down here and above it. Now, let's say we want to get to that groundwater on the surface. If we want some of the surface water, we simply pump it out of the stream, but if we want to get out of that groundwater, we could dig a well. Now the water, we could either pump out the water, or sometimes we'll have what's called an artesian well, where there's either enough gravity above it or enough pressure in the groundwater so it actually comes out. But as we use that well, just like using a stream, the water table is going to drop, and so we're going to start to deplete that aquifer. Now, an important term in filling an aquifer is something called recharge. So as we get water and infiltration, we're going to fill up that aquifer. But if the outputs, in other words, if we pull out more water than we're putting in, we're going to deplete the aquifer. And what are we using all this fresh water for? Well, if we break it out using a pie chart, most of it is actually for agriculture, the growing of our food. We use some of it for industry, and then some of it domestically in the house. The problem, again, is that it's unevenly distributed on our planet. Brazil's going to have plenty of water, but if we look in the desert southwest of the US or in the Sahara, there's not going to be any water right there. And so what have humans done? We've started to store water. So reservoirs are an example of that. A big example would be the Three Gorges Dam that was built in China, finished in 2006. And so this is what that river, the Yangtze River, looked like before they built the dam. And then they built the dam, it finished in 2006. You can see what it looks like then. So we're storing the water behind the dam. What's nice about that? Now we have water that we can use at will. We also can get energy from it as we run that water through a generator. We can control flooding downstream, and also we can use that for irrigation, or the Three Gorges Dam they're using to increase shipping on the Yangtze River. So it sounds great. What's the problem? Well, there's going to be destruction wherever that water went. So we're decreasing 20% of the forest in this Yangtze River. We're displacing over 1 million people that used to live there. We also have evaporation of the water off the surface, and then we're going to have nutrients that start to deposit there that would have normally moved their way down the river, and that's going to disrupt wildlife. And so fish obviously can't spawn, move up and down in the stream, but it's also going to change the temperature of the water. Example, there's a freshwater dolphin that went extinct in the Yangtze River, and the Three Gorges Dam may have contributed to that. We can also store it underground. That's naturally stored in what are called aquifers. One of the largest ones on the planet is the Ogallala Aquifer. It's going to be found in the Midwest, and so Here it is in Nebraska, but it goes all the way down to Texas and up into South Dakota. It's a huge aquifer. So if we look at the amount of water stored underground, it's over 1,000 feet of infiltrated, saturated water underneath the ground that we can use. And you can see right here, there's tons of irrigation going on. This is in Kansas. They're using center pivot irrigation so they can grow their crops. Seems great, but what happens again is that we can deplete that. So if we look at this is during a 10 or a 15-year period of time. There's an increase in the aquifer in certain areas, but most of the time we're seeing depletion. And sometimes that aquifer has kind of disappeared. And a lot of scientists think in the next 100 years, the Ogallala aquifer is just going to disappear. Why is that a problem? It could take another 6,000 years to fill it up again through recharge, natural recharge. Now we also have to move water around. So looking to California is a great example of that. So if we look in California, they need a lot of water in the Central Valley and then in the south, Los Angeles and San Diego. So they built this huge system where they can move water where it is in the mountains and they can move it through these aqueducts to where it's needed. Now you can see that's controversial. So people in this area are saying you're depleting our rivers. In this area, we're saying we have more population, we're growing your food, so we need more of that water. And this conversation becomes more heightened when we move into drought, and California is in an awful drought right now. Drought occurs when you receive way less than the normal amount of water. And so as we use that for agriculture, irrigation movement is super important. So how do we move the water actually to the plant? The easiest way to do that is using furrow irrigation. You can see it's easy, you just dig a trench. What's the problem? We have efficiency rates of around 60%. What's that? It's how much of the water is actually going to the plant without being evaporated and infiltrated into the soil. So we could move to flood irrigation, higher efficiency, but it's going to damage the plant a lot of the time. We could move towards a spray irrigation, high efficiency, but what are we doing? You can see we're adding equipment. This is a center pivot, so that costs money. Or we could move to drip irrigation. You can see it's going to be 95% efficient, but it's going to cost the farmer a lot more money to do that kinds of irrigation. As we move into drought situations, desalination becomes an option. We can remove the water from seawater. One way to do this is through distillation. What you do is you heat up the water and it evaporates. It's kind of like the hydrologic cycle. You then cool it down, usually through pipes, and what you do is you remove the water. What's the problem? Costs a huge amount of money. We could also do that through reverse osmosis. This is a reverse osmosis plant over on the side. What you do is you put a membrane right here, and then we squeeze the water, and as you squeeze the water, you move the water through, but you leave the salts behind. Now we have fresh water. What's the problem? Costs a lot of money. About 1% of the people on our planet are using water that's created through desalination, but by 2025 we should have 14% of the people on our planet in water scarcity, and so desalination may be an issue. Now how did we get to this problem? It seems like we have an unlimited amount of water, and remember our model that the earth provides the life support for society and the economy on the inside, and so the economy got us to this point. The decisions that we as governments made got us to this point. Where's the big mistake we made? Well, water doesn't cost enough. It's low-cost water. In other words, governments are subsidizing the cost of water, so farmers and industry and you are not really paying the amount that water costs. And as a result, you're not going to conserve it because it's just pennies on the gallon. It's incredibly cheap. And so how could we solve this problem? People might not like it, but if we increase the price of water, people are going to start to conserve. And we can also use incentives. In other words, we can pay people to pay farmers, for example, to use irrigation that's going to be more efficient or to conserve water. That's another way that economics can start to solve this problem of water conservation. And so did you learn the following? I would pause the video at this point and try to fill in all the blanks. But let me do that for you. Remember, the water resources move through the hydrologic cycle. We've got seawater, we've got fresh water. Ocean circulation and desalination could help us solve this problem. The fresh water can be groundwater or surface water. We use it for domestic industry and agriculture would be what's here. We can store the surface water through reservoirs. Aquifers is groundwater. And then we're going to use aqueducts and irrigation to help us move that water around. But again, conservation is incredibly important. Economics are going to drive that. And I hope that was helpful.
That's all for today's class. If any doubt arises, ask to me. Thank you.